You may have thought getting into aviation would lift all of your restrictions and make you free to do whatever you want. Such an assumption is dead wrong. You are bound to all kinds of procedures. Flight plan, clearance limit, route, altitude, frequency, SID, STAR, IAP. They're all around you. And if you fail to follow them, you put yourself, as well as others, at risk. In most cases, it can be a real pain to go through all these hoops to guarantee a safe flight. This video will show you how to make things easy. How so? Because this is a Dreamliner tutorial! Number 6! The Flight Management Computer! That's right. The truly awesome, super sophisticated Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner can make your life much easier when times are tough, thanks to the latest flight automation technology. We're going to walk you through a flight from Los Angeles to John F. Kennedy International to teach you how to use 787-8's FMC and show you its awesomeness. Now, let's get started. The first thing you'll want to do is switch to the CDU view. Next, I'm going to go to Index and Departure Arrival. Now, unless you're flying in a virtual airline, you'll need to punch in your arrival airport here, as well as the runway, the departure runway, and the arrival runway. However, you want to make things easy for those flying virtual airlines. And it's generally the same process, only it's a little more automated if you're using a virtual airline flight. So this flight actually is a Merlion route. So I'm going to punch in the flight number that corresponds with this route. And I put in the flight number. I click flight info, and I get the info. Okay, so then I set route. Notice how nothing confirms that the route is set, but that's okay. Then go back to Index, Departure Arrival, and then there you go, the arrival airport is in the thing. So now, I'm going to take off runway 25 right. You know that because that's where we are right now. Because for some reason I was having issues with my parking positions not lining up at terminals, or not lining up at gates, I mean. Alright. Now we need to find out the weather conditions at KJFK to determine which runway we want to land on. So let's go to the EFB. So let's see, we go to airport information. And back to the CDU view. Index EFB input. Punch in the ICAO code for the arrival airport and hit enter. Back to the CDU view, and we have our METAR data. So we got winds 090 at 8, gusting 15, and the very crappy looking conditions. It's going to be an IFR approach. So let's see, you want, I'll take runway 4 right. Let's try that. And that's about all we can do right now. In the current condition, the EFB is kind of broken, so we can't get the runway ILS frequency from that. You have to look it up on the internet. For now, it'll be fixed hopefully soon. So, let's see. You're going to want to get the ILS frequency to make sure you don't forget. That's 109.5 for runway 04 left, right. I'm just going to punch that in. Go back to the index, departure arrival. Enter the runway you plan to land on. Then procedures, departure. Now you need to select the best procedure for this flight, the best SID to use. So let's take a look at the SIDs we got. We'll want Ocean 3 or Loop 6 for this flight. As you can see, Loop 6 contains vectors, so we kind of want to avoid that if we can, because that's going to mess up the route manager by trying to put in a waypoint that's out of bounds, you know, at a point that doesn't exist. So here we go. This is the one we want. So we click Use SID, and we're going to check the route manager to make sure there are no mistakes, and there are. Great. So now we got to move all the SID waypoints up. Because that one where you climb the 620 feet, that's not a waypoint, but it's counted as a waypoint for some reason, so I put it in everything in the second spot instead of the first spot. Now close the route manager, go to procedures again, arrival. We want the Lendy 6 arrival. They're all, in case you haven't noticed already, the procedures are listed in alphabetical order to make things easy. So you click Use Star, and you go to procedures again, approach. The first one is the ILS, that's the one I want. And so we got some fixes that lead to the runway. And then we have the missed approach procedure, climb to 800 and then whatever that is, and then continue there and hold to Delta Papa Kilo. So yeah, so we're going to click Use IAP, and then come back to Index. By the way, if you check VNAV config, it's already set up for you if you're using a virtual airline flight, so you don't have to worry about that. Next, reopen the route manager. Notice we have some zeros and then a sudden jump in altitude. Some zeros and then a sudden jump in altitude, right? So what's going to happen is when you reach those zeros, it's going to maintain the last altitude target that you had, and you really can't expect to climb out of 5,000 directly at the flight level 280 in only 77 miles. So what you're going to have to do is do some calculations to figure out, you know, what altitude you're going to be at when you get there for a smooth climb on VNAV. So basically, you're going to use the formula that I issued in the VNAV tutorial. So I'll put a picture of it. Somewhere, and yeah. So basically that formula is you take your ground speed, nautical miles, over 1 hour, times 1 hour over 60 minutes to cancel out the hours, and then you have your current altitude minus, target altitude minus current altitude feet, over nautical miles, that cancels out the nautical miles, and then you see with feet per minute. Now, you're going to want to set the, you're not going to know the current altitude. That's going to be x. And then your vertical speed, you will know. It's going to be depending on what altitude you're at, because within certain altitude ranges, you want to maintain a certain climb rate, a certain maximum climb rate. So basically, if you're under flight level 180, then you climb at 2,500 feet per minute. Between flight level 180 and 260, it's 1,800 feet per minute, and above flight level 260, it's 1,000 feet per minute. And with the ground speed, you're not going to necessarily know exactly what your ground speed is, so you'll have to estimate that. Generally, what I do is below 10,000 is 300. Well, only when climbing now. Well, yeah, these are for climbing. 300 below 10,000. For above 10,000, it will be 370 plus 10 for each 1,000 feet above 10,000, with a maximum of 430 knots. And then when you reach flight level 260, it's going to be Mach 0.8. And then at flight level 300, it's going to be Mach 0.85. Alright, so yeah, I'm going to do some of those calculations now. And yeah. Alright, I finished my calculations for the climb, VNAV, altitudes. I haven't punched them in yet. I'll show you how to do that later. Now I'm going to do the calculations for the descent. Pretty much the same thing. Only you're going to use, you're going to use current altitude minus target altitude. And you're going to have to determine what descent rate you need. To do that, what I would do is take all the distances from here to here and add them up. And that's the distance in which I need to lose, in this case, to 7,000 feet. I'm going to use 384 knots as my ground speed because it's 100 knots less than my cruise speed. So I'm underestimating in some areas and overestimating in other areas. So it'll work out. It'll work itself out to be a smooth descent for the most part. And then again, under 10,000, it'll be 300 knots is the ground speed I will use to calculate these VNAV altitudes. So basically, after you add up the distances, you would take 384 over 1 times 1 over 60 times the altitude you need to lose, so negative 27,000 over the total distance. In this case I get, let's see, an average descent rate of about negative 2,000 feet per minute. So I'm going to use that as my descent rate for calculating the target altitudes. Alright, so I'm done with my calculations now. Time to punch them into the flight plan route thing. So we go to flight plan, active route. And wait a minute, go back to index. I forgot something. Okay, hang on. Look for any waypoints with a distance of 0 and get rid of them. Like this is a repeat, so we gotta get rid of it. It's gonna mess things up. Okay, now we're good. So flight plan, active route, and now we can start punching altitudes in. So I'm going to punch in the altitudes I got for my calculations. So let's see. You just punch in the altitude and then hit this button, hit the right button that's next to the waypoint, and it changes the altitude. Once you do this, you must never ever open the route manager again during the flight. Otherwise, the altitude will revert back to its old value. And we don't want that happening. If you need to change your route or anything, you're going to want to use the CDU. That's it for the climb. For the SID portion. Now for the arrival. Now we're just about all set. Yeah, we're all set. Alright. This flight takes about 5.5 hours. Well, or I'm estimating actually that it will take about 5.5 hours. So I'm going to want to load up enough fuel for 6.5 hours. This is most easily done with FGFS Copilot, which you won't be able to see in this video. So I'm going to do that now. Alright, I've changed the fuel load using FGFS Copilot. Now, if you don't plan on using FGFS Copilot to fly this flight, since we are not using FGFS Copilot to fly this flight, you need to open the property browser. I hit / to do that, and go into connection, FGFS Copilot connected, and enter a 0 there. And that you'll see why we do that in the next tutorial. Basically, the fly-by-wire and autopilot are designed to cooperate with FGFS Copilot, but if FGFS Copilot isn't running, then you're going to have stuff that's unnecessarily disabled and could put your flight in danger, and you don't want that. So always remember, if you're not using FGFS Copilot and you've already opened it and started it, just to set the fuel, then you have to go in and make sure that property is set to 0.